Welcome to Kevjet, the podcast. Julie McFadden, also known as the hospice nurse Julie.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to finally meet you. This is great.
I know we've been chatting online. I love what you're doing. It's so amazing, and it's grabbing the attention of so many people. In fact, over 3 million followers on social media.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Yeah. I mean, how did that begin? What made you just think, I'm going to start this?
So sorry. It's not what's why I paused is because I was just talking to a friend today who was like, no, I remember like for a year before you started anything, you were talking about how you just love hospice and you want to start educating people about it. And like, I fully don't remember that. I was like, I did? She was like, yeah, I can remember we'd go on long walks, you'd talk about it. So, so my story is kind of changing now because I used to be like, I don't really know. Like I went to go see my nieces. They were on TikTok and they're like TikTok age, right? I'm 41. I was 39 at the time. And I just didn't think anything of TikTok, but I got on TikTok to watch their little dances. And I don't know if you're on TikTok, but the more you get on TikTok, the more you're going to
It's
be on.
addictive. I know.
So then I started seeing people my age, talk about like gardening and like space, like stuff I was interested in. And I was like, oh, there's like adults here. There's people doing other things. So I had it in my head that I want to go somewhere. I was thinking a podcast because it's just my arena. But I was like, maybe I'll just make a few videos and try TikTok. And I had like 5 things I knew I really wanted to talk about, like 5 different topics. So I made these very bad videos, 5 of them. And then I posted like throughout the day. And by the 4th day, one went viral. And I had like 10,000 followers overnight. And then it kind of just kept snowballing from there. And it really took on a mind of its own, I feel like. And now I'm just sort of trying to ride the wave. I don't
Do you
know what's
feel
going
do you feel a bit of pressure?
on. I do now. I didn't for a long time. It's been 3 years now. For a long time, whenever I do start feeling pressure, because now it feels like there's a lot riding on it for some reason, I think
Mhm.
because it's just my brain. So now I try to always go back to like my original reason why I did this. And it's just to educate about death and dying, to try to change the way we look at death and dying through education. So whenever I start like feeling like overwhelmed or like I'm too big for my britches. Like this isn't that, I mean, it's important, but like I'm not that important. And my whole goal is just to educate people. So I always just try to bring it back to that. So I don't get too overwhelmed.
I love it. And so you've written a book which is coming out in June.
Yes. That is why I'm getting stressed out.
It's called Nothing to Fear: Demystifying Death to Live More Fully.
Yeah.
So
It's my
so
little baby.
yeah. So did somebody suggest, you know what, you should write this book, or was it always in the back of your mind you wanted to write a book?
No, and I'm not really even a reader. That's why it's been so hard for me to like get on, not get on board, but it's just been such a different world and it's taken 2 years in the making. And the reason why it happened, again, this is all like this, it feels like it just like happened to me. So 6 months into the TikTok thing, Newsweek wrote an article about me without even telling me. They published it. And next thing you know, that article went like mega, mega, mega worldwide viral. And because of that article, I got a lot of attention from like other people.
Sure.
And a literary agency reached out to me being like, hey, do you want to write a book? Or we can help you try to write a book, get a book deal, da 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 da. And I was originally like, no, I don't know how to write a book. This is not, I didn't know what was going on here. But they helped me understand that like not everyone wants to watch a 1 minute video. People want something tangible to look at and read and use for reference. And I was like, okay, as long as it's going to be an educational book, like for the masses, like easy to read, anyone can pick it up, read one chapter if they need to, not like sit down and read a novel, I'll do it. So that's how it started. And then I got a book deal. And it took 2 years to write. It's hard as hell to write a book. Who knew? Probably everyone. And now it's coming out in June.
That's very exciting. And like you said, it's something you can actually hand a patient or you can hand a family member.
Yeah, I want it to be, so it's 240 pages, which to me is like not longer than it needs to be, but that's like a book,
Yeah,
but I made it so you can literally just look at the title page, the chapters, and look at what you need in the moment. And you could start from chapter 3 or just go to chapter 9, and it's going to make sense. And you'll get the information you need. And it is an educational book. So it is like a helpful book to learn about things. But I also added in my stories and like different things that have happened to me. So it's not like reading a textbook.
I had a little sneak
I
peek
couldn't
and
do.
I really enjoyed it. And
Did you read it, Kelly? Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah.
did, and I have a few questions. And
Yeah.
if you're not able to answer them just yet, we can skip along. But I really did enjoy it, and obviously it's something that's close to my heart, and it's easy to read for somebody who's learning about death and dying for the first time.
Yeah. That's how I wanted it. I'm glad you said that. Thank you. I
I was
wanted anyone could read it, not other medical professionals.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not done in a scientific way. It's done. It's very black and white, and I love that because anybody can pick that up and they'll understand the process.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love that. So you go into it through so facts and myths about hospice care. So
Yeah.
why don't you just call out some facts and some myths about hospice care? Because it's a bit different over here in England compared to where you are in America. But let's just have a go.
I know. I was just going to say it's probably different depending on what country you're in, right? So what I'll maybe try to do is like stick with facts and myth about death and dying too. So like,
Yes.
like many people think probably all hospices across the world are even just end of life, that medical professionals like just medicate until they die.
Mm-hmm.
They stopped feeding my loved one, they starved them, and they medicated them until they died. That is 100% false, not
Mm-hmm.
true, not real, false fact. I can see how you could think that, but truly what's happening is at the end of life, people stop eating and drinking anyway. So one, they already don't want food and water,
Mm-hmm.
or they lose the ability to even swallow or eat food and water because they have no strength to actually swallow. Now, if anyone on anyone on hospice, if they're asking for food and water and they can physically take it, by all means,
Of
have all
course.
the food and water you want. But we have to risk if they or weigh out if they actually want it, and then if they actually can physically do it. So that's one.
Mm-hmm.
We're never just starving them to death, which is a common theme people think
Mm-hmm.
we are doing. And then the over medicating, I mean, I also can see how that can happen, or not how that can happen, but how people can think that. One, I have seen many people on hospice die a natural death with literally no medication.
Mm-hmm.
And they are still unconscious, they're still lethargic, they're still not waking up. And that is because they're in the dying process and their body knows how to do it. And it's doing things to make them that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not necessarily because of medications, but also we need to make sure someone dying is comfortable. And if they are showing us signs that they are not comfortable, we need to medicate. And a lot of times that's the one thing people need to let go. It's like, I think people can existentially kind of be hanging on, lingering, for whatever reason, right? And then we
Mm-hmm.
give them a little morphine, their central nervous system relaxes, and they're like, and they relax and let go.
Yeah.
But when people see that, they're like, "You killed him,"
And
or "I."
that's one of my questions because some family members are against medication at the end of life. And so how do you deal with that?
Education, just educate. I mean, sometimes if people really have a distrust for the healthcare system, which many Americans do, I'm sure it's the same there.
Mm-hmm.
They just have a distrust in the healthcare system and healthcare providers because of the history, because
Of
of
course.
what they've gone through.
And
So
everybody knows the bad stories. They don't know the good stories.
I know. And of course, like addiction is a real thing and a real problem in the world, right? So that's the first thing people think about when we don't want to get them addicted. We don't want to,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just so much education that goes into that. And most of the time I can educate like in one visit and people are kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we're good. We can give medications. And sometimes you can tell right away. I'm sure you've run into this too, where you can just tell it's like butting heads. And I'm going to still meet people where they're at. I'm not going to push because then I'm just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then they think I'm trying to get my agenda in there and I'm not listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I will usually say a little, if I could tell it's like that, I'll just say a little thing and then go, but you know what? You guys are the boss. Like we'll figure it out as we go. And then we'll just kind of keep, and as the trust gets built, they'll see that like at the end of the day, people don't want their loved ones to suffer. If you
No.
ask them what they want, they say, I just want them to be comfortable. Okay, great. We can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they'll need medication. Maybe they won't. But if they
Mm-hmm.
do, here's what I know. It is literally clinically proven that the morphine we give at the end of life, which is usually minuscule, does not hasten or quicken someone's death. All it does is make someone dying more peaceful. So let's do it. Like,
Exactly.
what's the problem? You know? Yeah,
Exactly. I
yeah.
know. What is the number one question you get from your viewers online? And is it different to the question that you get from meeting your patients for the first time?
Let's see. Wow. The number one question, I think most people are concerned about, is my loved one, or am I, depending on who it is,
Mm-hmm.
am I going to suffer?
Mm-hmm.
Or is my loved one going to suffer? Or did they suffer? So like they're meeting me after their loved one died.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about suffering, and are they suffering and are they going to suffer? Is dying painful? And the answer is no. I mean, dying itself, I mean, from a hospice nurse perspective, I mean, if you get hit by a bus, that's probably not painful either, actually. You're probably going to not be conscious. But, I'm talking about dying a natural death on hospice. Dying itself is not painful. Now,
Mm-hmm.
diseases you die from are painful and cause symptoms, and they can be really symptomatic and all the things. But like our bodies are built to die. Our bodies know how to do it biologically, physiologically, metabolically. Systems are in place
The
to,
natural thing.
it's a natural thing. Yes. And so, but people don't know what it looks like, right? We're used to seeing like the movies where someone gives like a beautiful monologue and then like closes their eyes and just dies. It just doesn't happen like that. Like people are usually in that actively dying phase, that last phase of life where they're doing a bunch of weird things.
Mm-hmm.
Families are not used to seeing it, and they automatically think their loved ones suffered because they were unconscious. They looked weird. Their eyes were open. Their mouths were open. There was no food and water given. They breathed funny. Their breath sounded gurgly or wet.
Mm-hmm.
How could they not be suffering? And it's just because they don't know that's normal, and they don't know why it's normal. So that's why education is so important. Hence my channel or my book or this podcast, learning about it, to
It's so
learn what
important.
normal is,
It's so important. And lots of times, when a family member comes into a situation where they have to deal with this, it's the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't know. They don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
That's true. That's so true. So, since we're talking about palliative care, we're talking about your book. Tell me about Scott.
Oh my gosh, Scott. So Scott, and all names and details are changed, everybody. So this is one of the stories I like to tell that did happen to me, but of course, like things are changed for privacy reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But he was one of the patients that really got me thinking about wanting to become a hospice nurse, because I was an ICU nurse, which is intensive care unit. It's a different type of nursing, for about 8 years. And Scott was one of the patients in the ICU that really got me thinking, like, man, I feel like there are certain circumstances in the ICU where we are really missing the mark, and we are really doing a disservice to humans by
Mm-hmm.
keeping them alive, by not educating the family about what truly is happening with their loved one. He came into the hospital with a terminal cancer. So he had pancreatic cancer, and he was getting a surgery because of the cancer. And normally that surgery is very helpful, and they're kind of in and out of the hospital if everything goes okay, somewhat. And then they start on their journey of chemo and radiation, and they're still likely going to die probably within a year or two, maybe. But he didn't have a clear cut thing. He had a complication after complication after complication. And he was my patient this whole time in the ICU. He was there probably for 6 months, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. The whole time he was intubated on multiple machines, keeping his body alive, different organs failing at different times. It was just horrific. And I finally said, during rounds where like the doctor was there, the
Mhm.
family was there, his husband was there, that we should have a family meeting to talk about, next steps and future planning. Kind of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like, can we please talk about what's happening? And I was too afraid to I kept it very vague because I was a young nurse and I was afraid to say anything. But I knew we needed to talk about something because Scott was not going to get better. And even if he did, he still had pancreatic cancer that he never
Mhm.
dealt with yet, right? It was like, this is too much. What are we doing here? So what I realized in that moment when I spoke up was that I had a voice and people would listen to it because everyone in that rounds, including his husband,
Mhm.
were like, yes, 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 yes. And it was like, oh shit. Because now I'm like, we're really doing this. Okay. Because I had never done that before. So we had this family meeting. The social worker was there, doctor was there, husband there. And we basically just gave him the facts about what was truly happening, which was he's dying and he's probably not going to get better. And if you know that, what do you think he would want? And he was like, he would want to go. He wouldn't
Mhm.
want to be like this. So after that meeting, we turned off the machines and he died that day. He died before the end of my shift. And even saying it is like, so I knew I was doing the right thing. I knew we needed to do more of that in the ICU. But because I was just a young nurse and it was the first time I had done it and it happened so quickly, it was like really hard for me after that shift not to leave there and be like, I just killed a guy. Like,
Mhm.
wow. But through time and I realized okay, this was I helped this person even though even though he died, I helped this person.
Mhm.
And that got me onto this truth train of being in the ICU and being like, we need to tell the truth. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. And then after a few years of that, I was like, you know what? I want to go to be a hospice nurse. If people are going to die, which we all are,
Mhm.
why not give them the chance to know they're dying and die at home peacefully with their family and friends around them?
Mhm.
If that's what they want, right? But we need to tell them it's an option because we don't.
Yeah,
So that's Scott.
I love the story of Scott.
I know. I love it too.
What are some of the issues that you still face in hospice today?
I don't know about you guys, but here in America, the biggest thing that I run into at work is families not having caregivers. So we, as a hospice team, as a hospice company, never, ever, ever, no one in America, and if they do, they're committing Medicare fraud, but we do not offer custodial care, which means changing, if they're bed bound,
Mhm.
being with a loved one 24/7 to care for them, because you're going to need that on hospice eventually. We don't provide that. So families are like, well, who does it then? And we're like, oh, you guys do it. And the family's like, we have to work because we need insurance and money and all the things, right? Like no one cannot work to come and stay here with him 24 hours. So there's no one to do the work. And most people are middle class family, or
Mhm.
if not lower than middle class. So they don't have money to pay for someone to be there. And nothing in our healthcare system provides that. Nothing. There's a missing link. We
Oh my
don't provide
goodness.
in-home care. So even if they were to go to a nursing home or a skilled nursing facility, that still costs a crap ton of money, even if you have insurance. So there's just that big missing link, and it's so, so hard. It makes me so sad to see how most Americans, even Americans that would make a decent living, I think, or make a decent living, still can't afford stuff like this. And they have insurance, they have all the things, they still can't afford it. It's horrific. And the other thing I see a lot of is elderly people or people with chronic terminal illnesses like dementia,
Mhm.
Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. They fall through the cracks big time because it's such a difficult, strange disease that takes so long for someone to deteriorate that they don't meet criteria for a lot of the helpful services because they're not bad enough yet. So it's just hard. Our medical system is effed. Can we swear? Am I allowed to
You can
swear?
swear. You can swear. There's no filter.
Yeah, our medical system is fucked. We are
Yeah.
we are fucked over here. It's fucking. I could. This is one thing that could really fire me up. It's just working within that system. completely fucked up. You can't die well in America unless you're rich.
That's so
And
sad.
like rich, and like rich, not like kind of, because no one has enough money to pay for in-home caregiving, and we don't provide it.
So when you go into a home, I guess you don't know what you're going to find.
Yeah, you don't know what you're gonna find. And I work in LA, which is crazy because right, LA, there's like the rich of the rich,
Of
right?
course.
I think with London, but like there's very, very, very wealthy people, and then there's like homeless people everywhere, right? And so like my life is like one time I'm in a mansion and like they have all the things, and then literally I'm under a bridge in Skid Row trying to give someone homeless help a hospice care. It's just so wild. It's so wild. And hospice does help in many, many ways, but the one thing we're really missing in all healthcare is the home care, someone really to help with the day-to-day living.
That's so frustrating because that's one of the most important bits.
It certainly is. Thank you. Yes, that's the most important.
Of course.
What's important. And people look at me, like the families are like, how does anyone do this? And I'm like, they don't. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, literally, this is like a complete missing link in our healthcare system. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
How do
People
you
don't.
feel when you leave that house?
Makes me feel, that's like I love my job, but it is that is the one thing, if you couldn't tell, like my whole personality changes. Like I get on fire for it because nothing makes me more mad than seeing how unfair it is. And I can feel so like I feel like I can help so much and I'm helping so much. And then there's one thing where you're working within a system.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you can do. Like literally, there's nothing you can do. If I could like try to override something but there's not even a program for it. Like there's not, there's no, so I feel frustrated. I feel sad. If there's ever a time that I feel like I could quit, is that like, that could make me be like, I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because it feels so like an uphill battle that you'll never win,
Sure.
you know?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's something that we do offer here in the UK, which is amazing. And then when I hear you talk about it in the way you are, I'm so thankful for it.
Yeah. Wait. So in the UK, they do provide stuff like that?
Yeah, you
Oh,
do have home care and you get 4 visits a day. And people complain because sometimes they're late or whatever, but you still get those visits. And
4 visits a day. Wow.
what a difference that would make.
And you're not paying for it?
No.
I don't know if anyone's listening to this or watching this, but if you're listening, my mouth is gaping open in
Mm-hmm.
shock.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, nothing like that here. Nothing like that here. Even if you have a lot of money to pay for a type of insurance that would pay for that, they don't even do that. Like it's just not even, it's
Wow.
insane. Now
It's
you
mind
could,
blowing.
it's mind blowing. Yes, you could go, like I said, you could go live. Like they have places where it's like, okay, you can't take care of yourself, go live somewhere else now.
Sure.
Which that's hard. People don't want to go live somewhere else. They want to live in their home.
Mm.
And guess what? Those places are still expensive as F. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now. I
Well,
get
it's
off.
it's it's reality,
Yeah.
and people don't realize that
Yeah.
unless you fall into that situation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How do you prepare somebody for death?
Um, Again, I know I sound like a broken record, but education. I think people don't know they need to prepare for it unless they run into someone like me, or like
Mm-hmm.
someone. So I think in general, the way to start, if you're listening to this and you're feeling inspired, is just to acknowledge, like try to say things out loud about death, or like start thinking about how you would feel if you knew you were going to die soon, right? We all going to die. But like I like to say, like if you knew you were going to die in 6 months, like contemplate that. Like what would that mean for you? What would you want to change in your life if anything? And sometimes on the practical level, you can't. It's like, listen, I gotta work, I gotta do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what could you do in the sense of like, I think contemplating your own mortality really helps you not take for granted things like your health, things like the sunshine a beautiful flower, cold water, a hot shower, right? Things like that that you can so easily take for granted that are actually beautiful things in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think that's one way to prepare just emotionally, but actual practical things you can do. I'm 41 and I have all these things done. So practical things you can do, find someone that you trust and love and show them where a folder is or something in a vault. I don't know, whatever you want to do. I'm still like a person who like takes pen to paper, but like, and my sister knows that in this place in my house, you're going to find a folder that has all of my passwords to get into my phone, my computer, my bank,
Mm-hmm.
get beneficiaries. I think you should tell people how you do you want to be buried, cremated? Do you want like different things you'd want if something bad were to happen to you? Do you want to be kept alive? Do you want a feeding tube? There's so many things that you just
Mm-hmm.
need to think about. And I don't think it's ever too early. Now, because I'm 41, I'm going to want different things than I will if I'm 85. So you got to update it and things like that. But we prepare for everything in life. So
Mm-hmm.
why are we not preparing for this? It's going
Exactly.
to make, yes. And doing that will help your loved ones. If you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for the people you love.
Mm-hmm.
It'll make
Even
it
if
so
you
much.
don't tell somebody, just have it prepared and have it where they can find it.
Have it where they can find it. Yeah. 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 And that's all in my book. So that was like, that's a hard, to me, that's like a boring chapter because I'm like, it's like a real like listy how to, but it's really practical and people need it. They need to know how to do it and
It's
like where
so
to start.
important. It's so
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I liked how you describe how it changes and it changes throughout life. And like I know I've had to do it just because of events in my life. And I rethink it probably every 6 months, but I
Yeah.
can. So I do.
Yeah, you can, so you do.
Yeah.
And why not, even if you don't make it official, right? Like you don't make it, you don't get a lawyer to notarize the things. Just be vocal with the people that you are close to that need to know what you want. So at the end of the day, if something bad does happen, everyone knows they're all on the
Hmm.
same page. No one's arguing. No
Hmm.
one's, no one thinks they're killing, the worst thing is when five kids are, one kid's like, you're killing mom, and all the other kids are like, you know what mom wants. She
And
said,
they're all around the bed.
yes, and they're all around the bed and mom is hearing it, even
Hmm.
though they don't think she is. So just tell people what you want so they know.
Yeah, definitely. And the pain management conversation is such an important one as well, because
Yeah,
there's lots of times where the loved one probably wants the pain management and their family members on the side of the bed saying, don't give it, don't give it.
I know. Yep. Oh, that's happened. Yeah. Education, education. And
Definitely.
sometimes if the patient is fully alert and oriented, that's also another time I'll get real sassy. Like if a patient's saying they want it and they are fully alert and oriented, I don't care what the daughter says. Like,
Exactly.
back off, lady. I'm helping your mom. Like, this isn't your choice to make. So
No.
sorry.
I love how you touch on the behavior of pets.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You have dogs,
I do,
as you know, yes. So one, I get so many messages from veterinarians talking to me about how, like, because humans have deathbed phenomena, which is chapter 6
which
in my
is my
book.
next question.
Yes, yes, that's my favorite. That was my favorite chapter to write. But veterinarians tell me that dogs or dogs and any pets, but they will experience some of the things that I explain humans experience,
Hmm.
and some of the things that they go through at the end of life. Animals will do the same thing. And I have seen the thing that I talk about in the book about pets is how pets are with dying owners is wild. Like they will take on symptoms sometimes. They will be they're protective all the time. So they'll be on the bed, under the bed, licking their face, just constantly with them, constantly with them. I've seen a dog lose weight and not eat because the owner wouldn't eat, so he would
Hmm.
eat. Ones that take on their symptoms, ones that take on limps, ones that will refuse to go for walks because their owner's either not taking them or maybe because their owner couldn't walk. I don't know what it was. Dogs that howl after their loved ones die, cats that will lay on the lap until the person dies. Just so many fascinating things. somehow animals can feel the energy or something.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deathbed phenomena.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something it's hard because my most of my channels, or no, my channels in general, all my social media channels are really like science based. Like I talk a lot about biology and the biology of death. And I can't not talk about deathbed phenomena because it just happens
Mm-hmm.
at the end of life. That's it. Like when I was an ICU nurse, I did not know. And it took me like probably like a year into hospice nursing for me to fully see and like have a good year of experiences where it's like it just happens. So you have to talk about it so people know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
So the main ones I see and that I talk about in the book are terminal lucidity, which is the rally or the surge, where someone has like a burst of energy before
Mm-hmm.
they die. They have one really good day and then they die.
And the family members call everybody and say, "Oh, they're doing so well."
I know, I know. That's why I always try to educate beforehand because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be the bearer of bad news when it's happening, right? Everyone's excited, everyone's happy. They're up, they're eating.
Yep.
Oh my. And then you have to be like, wah, wah. They're
Mm-hmm.
probably gonna die. It happens like 1 in 3, one in every third person or something. Isn't that insane?
The most common one for me is when the wife or husband or child has been sat at the bedside for days and days and days and they're exhausted and they finally say, "You know what, I'm going home to have a shower," and they're not even gone 5 minutes and the patient passes away.
I know they wait until everyone leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's something that I do explain to patients or
Yeah.
family members, sorry,
Yeah.
because it's
Sometimes you
so common.
alone, yeah. Especially if they're like really private, prideful, independent. They'll wanna die alone. I see that too.
Mm-hmm.
People waiting. I saw some, you wouldn't believe this. I had like a 99-year-old woman, like old lady, who was actively dying when I admitted her onto hospice. She was already actively dying. So she was fully unconscious, death rattle, like looked like she was gonna die any minute. She lived like that for 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
No food, no water, totally comfortable because she was like the matriarch of the family. So she was like waiting for so and so to come in, so and so to come. Finally, by the time I made my last visit, there was like 50 people at the house, literally all staying there. And then she finally died. I was like,
Wow.
because they were kind of like, what's she holding on for? I'm like, are there more people coming? Like, what's going on? I don't
who,
know.
who
Like,
have you not called? Yeah.
I know, I know. Yeah, there was one person coming from Georgia.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah, 3 weeks. And really, once everyone was there, I think everyone was there, and one person was on the phone, kind of like talking to her. She finally died.
Oh my goodness.
I
And
know.
then going back to like the medication and phenomena is, so if somebody doesn't understand the medication part and their loved one is saying that they see their loved ones in the room,
Yeah,
they often blame it on the medication,
I know.
but it's a thing.
It's a thing. It's a thing. Yeah, visioning. Who knew, right? I mean, I didn't know as an ICU nurse. I didn't really see it, but as a hospice nurse, so as a hospice nurse, I do see it all the time, and I think I see it even more now because I think a lot of people just weren't telling me this was going on because I think
Mm-hmm.
they feel weird about it, probably.
Yeah.
But now that I educate about it, most admissions, people will be like, "Oh, that's either already happening or it's happened," or they'll tell me later if it starts happening. And yeah, and what I think people are surprised about, because there's always the argument, oh, they're over medicated or
Mm-hmm.
oh, oxygen levels low. And I just want to be like, listen, I'm sure you know the same thing. I know what over medicated looks like. I know what
Yeah.
low oxygen looks like. I know what ICU delirium and psychosis looks like. Like, this is not that. Most of the time, they're pretty lucid and just kind of surprised by it themselves.
And it
So,
happens to probably 95% of the patients.
I
It's not
know.
like a
Yeah.
one-off.
It's not a one-off, no. And it's worldwide. So it
Yeah.
happens across all cultures.
I love when
Um,
it happens because I ask questions.
I know, yeah.
I get involved in the conversation and I say hello to the person that's sitting in the chair in the corner. And that's kind of what I love because it's making that patient feel very comfortable as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm always like, listen, if they're not having a problem with it, they're comfort, like go with it. It's
Exactly.
time. I mean, truly, most of the stories that I've seen or people that I've seen do it, they are not confused. They are lucid and
Hmm.
kind of being like, I know this sounds crazy, but my parents have come to me and they said they're not coming back. They're not, it's not time yet, but they're coming back and not to worry. And
Yeah,
I feel like it's like, great.
it's
Makes me, I'm
amazing.
like, yeah, great.
It's
Love it.
amazing. I know. You see people reaching for the ceiling. You see like so many things, and if you don't understand the whole process, I can understand how it can be scary for somebody as well who's watching that process happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. I love like I don't know what it's actually called. I call it like the death stare or like, and usually the stare and reach can kind of
The
like
glaze, yeah.
glazed over. I had a really good example of that just happened the other day where a patient was like, they had dementia, so they were kind of like confused, but they were like pleasantly confused and
Hmm.
like looking at me and kind of being like, yeah, blah, 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 and talking to me. And then all of a sudden it was like, like just zone out, looking over to the corner, and then suddenly a huge smile come on their face. And I'm like, hello, because we just were talking and they wouldn't do it. They would not come back. And then all of a sudden come back and then they're back to me again talking. And I usually don't fully go in. I usually am not like, what's going on? I usually just act like it didn't really happen,
Sure.
but I still love to see it.
Yeah,
It's cool.
it's
Whatever
amazing.
it is, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. Like I don't claim to know, but I still think it's great.
It's one of the craziest things because we're never going to know all these answers until it's our time, and then we
Yeah.
can't come back and tell people. So
I know. I know. Yeah. Yeah.
crazy. So I love that you share all these real life stories on social media. And do you find that people might come back at you in a negative way? Do you get a lot of negative comments, or is it mainly supportive and saying thank you for explaining this, or do you get that whole what are you talking about?
All right. It is, thankfully, it's mainly supportive. It is mainly supportive. It's still really easy to hang on to the ones that are not, but it is mainly supportive. Whenever something goes viral, that's always when you always like anything viral is going to bring negative, is going to bring
Hmm.
negative. So I always try to keep that in mind that if something's going really viral, it's because that means there's going to be haters. So I still do get some hate stuff. I still get like really crazy hateful emails sometimes that make no sense. And you're like, this person is clearly mentally not well. I mean, it is a sensitive topic, right? So it's like, I can see how some people get really triggered by it. But for the most part, truly, I would say like 99% is nice. Now I do, there's certain topics, right? So like I always talk about medical aid in dying, which is legal in 11 states in the US.
Hmm.
In Canada is much even more legal. It's like way not to me it's way more accessible there. But in the US, at least 11 states you can get it. And I work in one of those states. So I'm part of that program. So whenever I post about that or educate about that, which I think is so important that Americans know it even exists, because most people don't,
Hmm.
I get a lot of hate because it's such a controversial topic.
What
People
is the
don't.
process? What is the process?
So the process in America, anyway, first off, as a healthcare worker, I can't even say like, hey, do you know this is available to you?
Sure.
But if they ask me, I can tell them. So the process is someone has to, and it differs from state to state, but generally speaking, you have to have two different doctors say you have less than 6 months to live. So you have to have one say that, and then from a terminal illness, one say that, and then a few weeks later, you have to get another doctor to say that. And you basically have to also get those doctors to clear you mentally. Like you're mentally aware, you can take this medication on your own volition. No one's coercing you to take it. Like
Hmm.
there's nothing going on. You've never had any kind of like severe mental illness where you're suicidal, all these different things they have to go through. So there are some hoops. That's why if you want to get it, I suggest you get it early, because as early as you can anyway, because you don't have to take it once you get it. So you have to go through all this rigmarole and different processes of doctors signing you off. But once you get them signed off saying you are terminally ill, you are mentally stable, and you can physically take it yourself, in one form or another, they will give you the medication. Once you have the medication, then you can come on hospice if you want. You don't even have to really. You cannot be on hospice and get it because Medicare won't pay for it.
Right.
Because Medicare is federally funded, whatever. But that's neither here nor there. So then you go on hospice if you want to. And then some people never even take the medicine. And then some people do. And if you do, it's basically like a powder and you mix it with a little bit of liquid. And you take anti-nausea medicine first, probably like an hour before, because it does taste really bad and can make your stomach upset. And then once you drink it though, it's really quick. I was surprised when I first saw it. So you drink it and it tastes bad. And probably 5 minutes later, you're fully unconscious, just totally out. And then I'd say within the next 10 minutes, it goes, your body will just immediately go into that actively dying phase. So you changes in breathing, changes in skin color, all the things. And it does take a time in a process. So about 45 minutes of very peaceful, it's very peaceful. You're just fully unconscious. It'll eventually stop your heart.
Wow.
I know. It's pretty
And
wild.
do you have to ring the police and say it's a suicide afterwards?
No.
Okay. Because some countries have to.
We would put on their death certificate the disease, the terminal disease.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's why most people, I think, are on hospice when they do it. So then you don't have to call 911 and whatever. I think you'd have, if you weren't on hospice, you'd probably have to have some kind of doctor, not at the house, but like kind of involved. So when, at least in California, you don't have any, no one has to pronounce you dead. So like the family
Wow.
can say you're dead. Yeah. Yeah. But you have to be on hospice. I think if you're not on hospice, you have to call the coroner's office. You have to do a bunch of things.
Sure.
But if you're on hospice, they can just call us and say they died. And we go, okay, call the mortuary. Isn't
Wow.
that crazy?
That is crazy. So how many
Yeah.
times do the mortuary arrive and the patient's not dead?
I don't know. I mean, right? Yeah,
If
I
a
don't know.
family's just saying, yeah,
I don't know. I
interesting.
mean, I think your next guest should be someone who's a who works for a mortuary.
I think so.
To
I've got
see.
so many
I think
questions.
people can kind of tell when someone's dead, right? I mean, actually, I have some stories where they didn't know they were dead and they were dead.
Oh, I know.
And I had to walk in and I'm like, this person is dead. And the family's walking around eating sandwiches, no, none the wiser. I'm like, can't you tell? It's a,
I know,
oh,
it's wild. It's wild. It's a great subject, and I love that we can have a laugh about it as well, because it's
mhm.
a serious subject, but I think it's important. Like the more you know, the more relaxed you are about it, and it works for family members and patients as well.
Yeah,
And I think your
yeah.
book is going to be fabulous just for those reasons.
I hope so. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. We'll see.
We will. I can't
Come
wait. I
on,
will
come
be
on.
advertising that book.
Thank
Definitely
you.
can't wait. So, yeah, let's just move on into some fun questions. They're
I love
quick
it.
fire. So, like, sometimes people take a little bit of time to think about them.
Okay.
But I edit it, so it's much quicker than it is in real life. So let's just move into that and let's see what we got.
Love it.
So, what has been your favorite age so far?
Oh God, that's so good. Oh man. Okay. I want to say now. I want to say I could seriously say like so many different ages. All my ages. I'm good with aging. I'm good with aging. And I'm good with appreciating the time I'm in. You know what I mean?
Love it.
So I think I'll say this age because I love who I am. I love my life. Crazy things are happening. So this age,
Amazing.
41. I'm 41.
Amazing. What item is worth spending your money on?
A really good hotel. A really good hotel. I love a good
Agreed.
4 star. I love a good 4 star hotel. I'm so snobby now. That's all I want. 5 star, 5 star, 4 star. You know what I mean?
What are you most looking forward to?
In this moment right now, I'm looking forward to June 11th when my book comes out for many reasons. One, for the world to have it. Two, for the feeling of like this like antsy feeling of trying to get all the stuff done is kind of like over because it's out now and we can just move on, not move on from the book, but just move on from trying to do all these things for the book.
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to that. June 11th, baby. It's so close.
It is so close. It's going to be great. Do you own a Netflix account or do you hijack somebody else's?
I own one and everyone hijacks mine.
Same
Which is
here.
fine. It's okay. I don't really care. Everyone can have, I can give everyone my code.
What are the least likely three words someone would use to describe you?
The least likely,
The
right?
least likely.
Mean, dirty, snobby.
What do you think the meaning of life is?
To connect to others. We're all one. And the meaning of life is to be present and connect to others.
Whose death has hit you the hardest?
My friend Shauna.
What trait defines you who you are?
What trait? Can you give an example? So I can, like, what do you
Do you
mean?
need
Like,
to phone a friend?
yeah, I need to find a friend. What trait? Like a trait in
Most
me?
defines
Oh,
you.
I know. Open. I'm an
Amazing.
open.
You are. And I was going to say caring as well. So caring would have been a great trait. What is the kindest thing anyone has ever done for you?
Oh my God, there's so many freaking things. The kindest thing anyone has ever done for me. There's so many things. You're gonna have to edit this one, huh? There's so, honestly, I have so many wonderful, kind people in my life that do like
Mhm.
kind, amazing things for me every day, all the time. All the time. I'm so lucky.
That's
Kindest thing.
amazing.
I don't know.
That's a great answer, though. That's a great answer right there.
I can think of so many things that are done for me in a kind way, like daily.
Beautiful. What makes you hopeful?
Oh, the present moment. There's something about so when I say that, it's like that's how I connect. If we want to just to use an easy word, to use the word God, which I think can be, I just use it because it's easy, but I don't know
Mhm.
how else to describe it. That is how I can feel the power of the universe, I guess, is by being in the present moment. And if I'm there and I'm truly open to what is reality, which is only the present moment, I can feel like the expansion of the eternal now, and that can make me feel hopeful.
Name a person who inspires you.
Oprah.
Very interesting. Listen to the podcast that just came out this morning.
Is it bad? Is it bad for, is it bad on Oprah?
It is.
No. It makes me so sad.
I
I
just
know.
think it's funny. It's great. It's great. Name a song that makes you happy.
Oh, okay. There's a random song called One by a band called Bird Talker.
I'm going to look it up.
Be very happy.
If you could make one wish come true, what would it be?
Oh, that can make me cry. I'm not going to say my real answer because it's too personal. You can erase that. I'll tell you, but then I'll tell a different one. Okay.
Okay.
My other wish that you're actually going to put on the podcast, and that there's peace on earth. That is real. I mean, really, we need
Yeah.
peace on
We definitely need peace on earth.
earth. Yeah.
What calms you when you're feeling stressed?
Television.
Do you have a celebrity crush?
Tom Selleck.
Do you have a bucket list?
No. I've already done all my, I've done a bunch of shit. I've done a bunch of shit. I still have things I want to do, but I've done like a lot of stuff and I just do whatever I want to do really, which I'm so freaking lucky. I'm so privileged and lucky that I can do that shit, but I
I'm the
do.
same. I'm the same. I don't have a bucket list. If I drop dead tonight, I drop dead doing so many great things that I loved. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. That's
what
great.
does happiness mean to you?
To be content. I feel like happiness is kind of coming and going, but to be content is what I strive for.
Do you believe in life after death?
Yes. Yes.
How do you want to die?
In my bed, in my 90s, ready to go.
And how do you want to be remembered?
As a funny, lighthearted person who helped people when I could and also had good boundaries.
Amazing. Thanks for the chat, Julie. I'm looking forward to June the 11th when your book comes out.
Me too.
So
Me too.
exciting.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thank you
being a great
so
guest.
much. Thank you so much.